Rugby World Cup commentator. Dallen, tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah, my journey has kind of been an interesting one, I will say. As a youngster growing up in South Africa, I've always wanted to play for the Springboks and get on the field there. It wasn't to be, and so after studying in South Africa, I went to America for the first time, played a bit of rugby and got a chance to travel. The US Sevens coach called me out and said, "We'd like you to come to tryouts." And I said, "Hey, listen, that's a huge honor and thank you so much, but I'm South African." He goes, "Yes, you are. You never played for South Africa. You're American citizen now, and you've been in the country for 3 years, which are the eligibility rules to play on the World Sevens Series." So that opened up a whole adventure and a new journey for me playing for 3 years, and then after that I got involved into the commentary world. I've always been a big talker, so it was a natural progression. My biggest thing is excitement. I hope I bring that through in the commentary, and a bit of humor at times, because I think some of the stuff I remember growing up listening to was kind of a bit stale, and so some people like it, some people don't, but I think it's important to be who you are.
So this World Cup, you've been paired with, it looks like Joel Stransky and Santiago Gomez.
Yes, Gomez Corey, yes, that's right. So Santi and I go way back in the sevens, and so he's been wonderful to have on the trip. He still is so anxious when it comes to the games, because he's like, how do I say this in English? He's just so good and amazing. And of course, to work with Joel Stransky, that has been a real treat as well. I was 16 years old when South Africa won the World Cup in '95, and I remember bunking out of high school Rondebosch and going to Newlands across the road, watching them beat Australia in the opening game, and following South Africa's journey. And Joel is obviously a big influence on a lot of us, and so to work with him is just the nicest guy ever. We have a lot of fun, and the cool thing is you're here for a month with your commentary crew, so we get a chance to tour around together, go for dinners, that sort of thing, trade stories. And for me as a fan, obviously, to hear about '95 and even the photo that Joel's in, that famous photo, that was taken by an illegal photographer, had snuck into the game at the final, took that wide angle. He just bought a brand new camera at a wide angle, took that photo, which became the most iconic rugby photo of all time, particularly for South African fans. And just kind of nuggets and inside stuff like that. It's really been a dream to work with him.
And has Joel spoken about Canada, about the big fight?
Yes, so we did actually. So in fact, we went to an event honoring Chester Williams recently. Chester would have been here for the World Cup. One of the charities he works for, they have a business here actually in Japan that has certain restaurants, but also sells some beer, and one of them is called Chester's IPA, and it's just been released in 22 bars in Japan. Chester didn't want to be associated with an alcohol brand in South Africa because he does a lot of things for charity and young kids. So he said, if it's in Asia, that's okay, because the proceeds will directly go to his charity in South Africa.
And in terms of this World Cup, what do you think of South Africa at the moment and their chances going forward?
I was really excited about South Africa's build-up. I think, the nice thing about South African rugby is that you get a chance to play against Australia and New Zealand year in, year out. And if you look at the history of South Africa's only ever lost to 2 teams at a Rugby World Cup. It's that's a kind of a stat, let that set in, 2 teams. They're in New Zealand and they're Australia, both twice. Never lost to anybody else. So I think that's very, a positive factor for them coming into this tournament that, yes, they lost to New Zealand in the pool round, but that's okay, because the paths could meet in the final. And if it's not New Zealand, somebody else, I think South Africa are a confident team to go through. They have a big squad, which is really nice, that everybody can contribute. I think that's important. And so the depth is good. And look at a team like Ireland, who peaked a year too early. Everybody was talking about Ireland in 2018, and sure, they may have come in as #1 ranked team, but they're not playing their best rugby at all. I think South Africa on the upward, and I think Russia has done a brilliant job with them.
And tell me about, I think it's called Verity Explained.
Yes. So, my missus, she's hilarious. She cracks me up. She loves it. I love rugby. She occasionally watches a rugby game. Her first actual 15-a-side game live was Ireland beating New Zealand. Sold out crowd at Soldier Field in 2016. So 70,000 fans going wild, and she was like, wow, this sport actually is amazing. I go, well, this was a big upset, first time in 111 years, so don't get used to that. She loves sevens too, and so before the World Cup happened now, she's like, oh, I'll do some videos and I'll review the pools. I go, great. I know you know nothing about them, I'm just gonna read out which country's playing, and so.
I'm gonna go Wales, because Wales are like, they're big and they're tough and they're trying to not be Irish all the time.
She is an absolute hoot. We connected when we first met over our love for British comedy, Fawlty Towers and John Cleese and all that, and then the Office, British Office with Ricky Gervais. So I think we need to do a proper segment, like a weekly segment. She can review all the tournaments going on, and I mean, again, I'll probably be replaced in the family. She'll be the commentator.
And who do you see actually winning it?
South Africa. and that's not just because of my accent. I think I'm also always for a new champion as well. So New Zealand won it twice and they're amazing. They were the best team in the world, obviously. But I think the time has come to change. I think if South Africa are able to play a little bit of more expansive game and not just one-off big runners like South Africa traditionally does, New Zealand could be exposed. South Africa has a really deep squad, as I said. Very excited to see it. But anyway, the cool thing about the World Cup is hopefully Japan makes the quarters as well. They get in, the country get behind them. There might be a couple other upsets going through. It's going to be exciting, but Springboks all the way.